hit the go live button. Going live. You're live. Hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlick.
Hey,
Um, Hello, everybody. This is Warren Redlick. I'm here with, see if I'm pronouncing it right, Kristen Netten. How do you pronounce it?
yes, Kristen Netten on K10 at Twitter.
Awesome. So thank you for coming on my channel. We got over 100 people watching. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I wanted to talk to you about Tesla and Battery Day. We got a lot of big stuff coming up, and I'm very excited that you're here with us. Um, for people who don't know, and thank you, Nick, for the contribution. I didn't expect that. Really appreciate it, and you're welcome. So I wanted to talk to you. I think people are really excited about Battery Day. People are really excited about Tesla. Just for a beginning, could you tell everybody, a little bit about your background and how it connects to how you got interested in Tesla?
So, always been really big on the environment, really big on technology that's very cutting, that helps the earth, things that are moving us forward as a people. I'd seen Teslas here and there, I think prior to 2018, 2017. But it really started getting traction in early 2018 when I was reading up on just Elon and some stuff on his mom, and kind of just jumped on the bandwagon early 2018 around April. Got on Twitter. I had not had a Twitter account before, and just dove right in. There was so much FUD going on with Tesla. I kind of researched and dove right in and started helping out, debunking some FUD, debunking some journalistic articles. So
Yes.
yeah,
And do you have any kind of, so it's more like an environmental thing. You appreciate people who are doing something to help the environment, and you see Tesla doing that, and that was sort of the kicker.
definitely. Yeah. No, I love chemistry, and I was studying chemistry for a little bit there. Need to go back and do it if I'm going to do it, or there's different ideas I have going on in my head. We'll just see what comes of it. But yeah, that's kind of where I got in it. Twitter kind of was the avenue that really put me more into Tesla. So yeah.
And with a background, at least somewhat in chemistry, which I have like very, very little knowledge about chemistry. I took high school chemistry and that's it. And I try to understand it, but I feel like it's over my head. Do you find the battery chemistry stuff coming up in Battery Day interesting?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely find it interesting. But I think, like Ming has said, a lot of people have said it's changing by the week, the different type of battery chemistries that they put forth, and what is potential, and it's the scales of economy, just the ability to actually find the ingredients and actually make it in mass. I think that's what we're all looking at right now, and
Yeah.
what actually works.
Yeah. I think that's, and maybe we can just jump right into Battery Day because I think that's the big topic. It's, I think, 9 days away. I did not,
Yeah.
did you get a golden ticket? I didn't get a golden ticket.
So no, they sent those all out, and I'm really curious what the cap on the head count is for that. But no, I did not
Uh,
personally get a golden ticket. Still hoping something works out.
I,
We'll see. I don't
I bought
know.
plane tickets. I bought plane tickets
Oh man.
in case I got a golden ticket, and I didn't get a golden ticket. I don't. There were airline mile credits, not airline credits that were going to expire anyway, so it's not like I really lost anything. And it was really cheap because
Yeah.
airfares are really cheap right now. But I was like, I, I'm not going to use these anyway. I got to buy the tickets, and I'm a little disappointed.
And we're
But
all bummed.
yeah, yeah. So Battery Day's coming. We're in a world now. Well, actually, one of the things. So I just made a video about batteries, about Battery Day a couple days ago, and one of the things that I see that I feel like people don't see is the variability in battery chemistry. So I think a lot of people see it as, oh, they're making batteries at Giga Nevada, and they use all those batteries in all their products, and that's not true. So my sense is they're using a lot of different chemistries. What you probably know more about this than I do. What different chemistries do they use for what?
Well, I don't know if I know all that. I just know that they've got different. I mean, like in China, there was different batteries that they're using for different cars that they were putting in there. Giga Berlin is supposed to have, some new cutting stuff coming out. Um, I think at this point, anything's on the table and they're entertaining it, but it's just a matter of what works. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many different
I was
potentials going in it.
I was struck by lithium iron phosphate being used. You remember in the was it quarter two or quarter, whatever the last quarterly call was, Elon was joking about, please mine more nickel. That
Nickel. Hmm.
that nickel, cobalt, aluminum, nickel, manganese, cobalt, the main high energy density chemistries use a lot of nickel. And not to
Yes.
mention that there's nickel and steel for Cybertruck and SpaceX. And so there's a big demand for nickel. So using lithium iron phosphate in made in China Model 3 saves nickel for other applications. And I'm wondering, like,
Yeah.
do you have any? So one of the things I've wondered, and I've actually heard now three different answers to this. Do we know what they're using in grid storage? What battery chemistry is in Powerwall, PowerPack, and Megapack? I feel like we haven't seen any hint of that.
That is interesting. I guess just assumption wise, I would assume it's the similar chemistries that we're already seeing. But I mean, that's a fascinating thing, man. I think I'd like to look into that. I haven't even. I don't know why I haven't. I just assumed it was the same battery tech that we're seeing, but there's got to be some other things going on there. And I would love to see someone just open one of those up and break it apart. Like that's a good idea.
So I'm sorry for people who don't know, because I saw a question about this. Kristen, the reason I know Kristen is because she's on Twitter and was on the Third Row Tesla podcast, and she's probably, I can't say my favorite Twitter account, but among my top five for sure. Elon is one of my Twitter accounts, so I can't put you above Elon, and there's a couple others, but she's a Tesla social media whiz, and I'm sorry, there we go. Like your video keeps changing on me, so people are wondering the video keeps changing. So Limiting Factor just did an interview with Shirley Mung, who's a battery researcher, and she made this reference to the goal with grid storage is low cost and high cycle life. That's what really matters, and she specifically mentioned lithium iron phosphate. And the question came up because they were talking about silicon in the anode versus graphite in the anode, and she said you wouldn't bother using silicon in the anode, you wouldn't bother using expensive high density chemistries grid storage because, did I say it wrong, Mark? Because you don't need lightweight for grid storage. And that's one of the things that's been holding Tesla up in terms of Tesla energy is the demand for batteries is so focused on vehicles. I just didn't know if you had any thoughts on that, if you're more interested in cars.
No, that's fascinating. No, the grid stuff is fascinating. And I think what she's saying with like a high count of revolutions just turning over because it can last longer. That is true. The weight factor is grid packs or the storage, the mega packs and the power packs and all that. And I mean, I had just briefly looked up Tesla's account on utilities and they've got it out there now. And I think even Homar's blog was putting some stuff out after I just had put it out about the utilities and just that's the next phase. I mean, if you look at people like Warren Buffett, he's getting it all into this. This is the new I don't know, everyone's like a mad rush to get onto the grid energy because the old systems are all failing. They're too old and dilapidated and this battery tech and
I haven't heard that about Warren Buffett. What was the story with Warren Buffett?
So Warren Buffett has been investing in some utility grid stuff going on all throughout like the southern part of the US. I mean, it's like playing Monopoly with Warren Buffett, right? He's got the railroads, he's going to utilities. Sure. But yeah, he's there. He's right neck and neck with the people that are on it. So
is he buying into grid storage as part of what he's doing?
He's buying different groups that are working with that. Yeah. I mean, because look at California, they'll have consistent blackouts. And now I think, it's probably not just going to be California. We'll continue to see this throughout the nation. I mean, infrastructure needs to be revamped, and using the sun and using this kind of storage is a great way to go, in my opinion. But
yeah, okay. No, I'm getting all kinds of questions all over the map. So, and I don't know why this has happened to me before. I'm gonna have to learn something new about Skype because your video, you're not the first one. Your video size keeps changing. It's not you. I think it's me, and I'm not sure why. So
I'll just smile.
It's fine. So I see three big things going for Battery Day regarding battery chemistry. I think we're going to see an expansion of lithium iron phosphate role in Tesla's story, particularly with grid storage, but also made in China Model 3. And I think my projection is they're going to use lithium iron phosphate in certain models everywhere. Like Cybertruck has a lot of room and is less sensitive to weight. So lithium iron
Hmm.
phosphate might make sense, especially in the low end. Any low end, no, of course we're Tesla fans, so there's no such thing as a low end vehicle. But using lithium iron phosphate in the low end versions of Teslas seems to make the most sense. So,
Hmm.
but there's two next levels up from lithium iron phosphate: nickel, cobalt, aluminum, and there's advanced battery pack. So we'll talk about
Hmm.
advanced battery pack in a minute because I think that's what people are most excited about. But with nickel, cobalt, aluminum, I had read they were at 250 watt hours per kilogram, and then more recently I heard they were 260, and I'm projecting they're going to reach 275 watt hours per kilogram soon on nickel, cobalt, aluminum, and get to 300 before they sort of top out. And that's for those who don't know, nickel, cobalt, aluminum is the main chemistry used in most Tesla vehicles today. That's
Yeah.
the batteries that are being produced in the Texas in the Nevada Gigafactory by Panasonic. Do you have any thoughts, or have you heard anything about what's going on with nickel, cobalt, aluminum chemistry? I really want to talk about the advanced battery pack, but I'm just curious what you think about nickel, cobalt, aluminum, what you're hearing.
So, no, I probably should do a little bit more research, but I'm not surprised. And when Elon says they need more nickel, I mean, I think people know that the nickel ore, it comes with cobalt in it often, and cobalt is a gas that often gases off when you smelt the nickel. And so there's a lot of hubbub and there's a lot of misinformation about cobalt because we see dirty mining coming from the inner Congo, where the Chinese had gone in after the Belgians used to be there and started mining. And there's a lot of dirty mining practices. And you'll see the media camp on that. And the media often is connected with the oil industry. But the oil industry has been using cobalt for decades, decades on decades for desulfurization of oil. So I cobalt is a powerhouse in itself. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. I mean, to see. I would hope to see that there is more nickel mining and that we do get some good nickel mining processes that still can use cobalt, and that people actually become more educated on all that. But I need to research more about what you're saying. It sounds really good.
Yeah, but you just said something. You just went over my head. So I'm going to ask you to
Oh,
explain that. You said that something about cobalt in the process of mining nickel or processing nickel, you get cobalt. I
so if you have a nickel ore,
yeah.
often cobalt is mixed in it. Often an ore is there's more conglomerates of different minerals in it, not just nickel straight out. So if they're going to go mine nickel, they possibly could have a cobalt with it. And when they process the ore, the cobalt often will be a byproduct that comes off. I mean, the word cobalt is a German word and it means goblin, and it is because it made this toxic noxious gas that people would walk into, and it's not. I mean, it's very toxic in itself. Like the body needs cobalt, like it uses it in B12 form, but you can't just take cobalt into your body. It's very toxic. They used to inject it in racehorses, and the horses would race like crazy. Their energy went up, but they would die soon afterwards. But yeah, so the nickel ore could have cobalt with it, but it would be a clean process for using the cobalt and the nickel. So it would be a good thing in my opinion.
Okay. So Elon, a lot of people talk about going cobalt free or reducing the amount of cobalt in batteries. I believe Tesla's
Yeah.
nickel, cobalt, aluminum chemistry already is relatively low in cobalt. And I
Yes.
don't know if how much. So tell me if I'm going beyond. I just read a lot about nickel, cobalt, aluminum. So, and I think I like went over my own head in what I read. But there are, with both nickel, manganese, cobalt, and nickel, cobalt, aluminum, there are different amounts of the minerals, different chemistries. So I think best known to me, at least to me, there's NMC 532 and NMC 811, which is the proportion of the N, the M, and the C in the battery chemistry. So when you have 532, it's roughly 50% nickel, 30% manganese, and 20% cobalt. When you go to 811, it's 80% nickel, 10% manganese, 10% cobalt. And what I read about nickel, cobalt, aluminum was I think Tesla's battery chemistry was about 84% nickel. And I forget how much
This sounds
cobalt
right.
there was. And then there's some
I think it's like
aluminum.
7%. That's the number that's coming off my
Right.
head right now.
Right. But I read that there's another chemistry that was being tested that got nickel up to like 90% and got cobalt
Hmm.
down to like 4%. So I think there's still a lot of room for progress in nickel, cobalt, aluminum. I don't think that's going to be the advanced battery pack. I could be wrong, but I didn't know if you had any. So so moving on, let's move on then, because I think neither of us knows enough about nickel, cobalt, aluminum to go deep into that. What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What do you think is coming? Just for those people who don't know the history of the advanced battery pack or where that term comes from, Joe Rogan was talking to, I believe it was a Joe Rogan interview with Elon Musk, and Joe was really hot about Roadster, and Elon said Cybertruck has to come. But at some point in that interview, Elon said that the plaid powertrain, which will be in Roadster and Model S and Tri-Motor Cybertruck, is a combination of the Tri-Motor powertrain and, he said, advanced battery pack. And of course, Rogan didn't ask, well, what's the advanced battery pack? And I think that has to be the biggest news coming out of this. So what thoughts do you have on what the advanced battery pack might be, and what does it mean? There's two questions there. What chemistry or what techniques might go into it, or technologies? Then how does it translate to the vehicles, other products that Tesla might make? What are your thoughts on that?
So you did say it's going to be the plaid, and Elon did state there might be a plaid day after Battery Day, but we might be seeing actually the plaid information come out at Battery Day. And so for the advanced battery packs, it's obviously going to be the higher turnover, the ability to charge it over and over again, and for it to go further. So they said they were camping on silicon. I mean, the whole community on Tesla Twitter went big on the silicon anodes. Everyone was sure about it. It was pretty funny. And then Elon kind of kiboshed it. And then there's the idea that the graphene. And so the problem is that some of it was burning out fast, and some of it, I mean, I wish I had the chart on me right now. I'm wondering if it's going to be a combination of like the graphene and the silicon. And what they do is they balance each other. I had a paper that I found that was really fascinating, and I posted it a while back. But I think that it's going to, I mean, I can't even find the words. I think it's obviously going to be a longer lasted battery life, and it's going to have the ability to keep on going and not burn out. I mean, that sounds so simple, but I think you're right. It's going to be revealed. I don't know the chemistry makeup per se, what it's going to be.
Right. Well, it's going to,
yeah.
It's pretty clearly going to be. It's pretty clearly going to be higher cycle life.
Right.
I'll tell you my own theory. So Elon said in a tweet just in the last few days, maybe the last week or two, he said that he expects to reach 400 watt hours per kilogram energy density in about 4 years. And Shirley Mung on the Limiting Factor, Jordan from the Limiting Factor interviewed her, and she agreed, or thought it was likely, that Tesla will be able to deliver 400 watt hours per kilogram. And she even went further and said that Battery 500 Consortium expects to deliver 400 watt hours per kilogram. So Jordan, I tweeted this, and Jordan liked what I said. He responded, and he said thought it was a good approach, was, okay, if you think you're going to reach 400 watt hours per kilogram in 3 to 4 years, and you say that battery technology is improving, or energy density is improving by 5% a year, you do 1.05 to the third and 1.05 to the fourth, and you divide 400 by that. Everybody wants to know how. I actually know a little math. I'm a lawyer, but I know some math. So you divide that out, and you get around 340 watt hours per kilogram. So my prediction is the advanced battery pack will be announced with 340 watt hours per kilogram on Battery Day in 9 days. And it will be in production at Page Road, and I predict, just so people know, other people have been predicting this. Plaid Model S will be announced and for sale at Battery. Because they've tested prototypes of Plaid Model S. I think it already had the advanced battery pack in it months ago. But it's one of the big challenges. You mentioned manufacturing before. One of the big challenges is, okay, we've got this chemistry, we know we can make it, but now we've got to produce it in volume. We've got to produce it with high yield. We've got to find economies of scale in producing it in volume. There's all these things, but he always talks about manufacturing, and honestly, it's like, wow, that's over my head. When he talks about manufacturing, it's like, yeah, he's so many steps ahead of so many other people when he talks about the challenge of manufacturing. So Do you think there's a chance we're going to see Plaid Model S for sale on Battery Day, or might being too optimistic for one thing?
Wow. I mean, it could be announced. Then you're assuming that it's already been in production,
Yeah.
um, and that the orders can be taken. Um, I mean, I it could be announced. I honestly haven't looked into it a whole lot. I mean, he's been teasing it for quite a long time, so it's coming. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Texas should be a powerhouse in producing a lot of all this because they're going to be doing the semi that needs
Right.
the higher batteries. They're going to be doing the Cybertruck that needs the higher batteries and the Roadsters. So this is going to be
I think the I think the path is that they're doing pilot lines in Fremont right now,
yeah.
and they need to get the manufacturing down. And once they get to a certain point where they're comfortable that the manufacturing is working and they've got the processes working and they're getting an acceptable yield, then they move those lines, not move those lines, they replicate those lines in Giga Texas, in Giga Shanghai, in Giga Berlin. And
Berlin.
then, one of the things Elon did with Starship was he actually had competing efforts. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, those just died, or they
Okay.
keep kicking off the Wi-Fi. So we'll just talk here.
Let's try it like this to see how it works. So I
Okay.
think with Starship, they did this thing where they were making Starship in Boca Chica, Texas, and they were making Starship in Florida, and there was sort of a competition to see who's making it better and can they learn from manufacturing in two places. And they decided Boca Chica, Texas was doing better. But I
Yeah,
could
that was
see
pretty cool.
But I could see the same thing. All right, we're good enough on the cell lines now. Let's try this in Texas and a couple other places, and let's see what improvements we can make and then translate them across other places. I don't know what the manufacturing strategy is. Is it get to a certain level and then we can replicate, or is it we're good enough now to replicate and then compete and compare and improve different ways? I see that being Elon's way. You can iterate in multiple places, and that way you get different learning.
I mean, I guarantee he is doing somewhat similar of that kind of processes in that. With the Starship though, it's so unprecedented and everything was so raw. I mean, you
Yeah.
really could just say have at it.
Yeah.
But with the battery lines, I mean, that's quite a lot of space. I mean, and you're setting up lines just to take them out or change them might be a little bit more cumbersome. But I mean, I was putting out stuff out there because I mean, doing the dry electrodes instead of the wet, the amount of space that the wet battery to do that was really big for manufacturing. So if they're going with the dry electrode technology, they cut down a lot of space. So that in itself will help them make more battery.
Yep.
Assuming, I mean, they can get more nickel and everything else they need. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just think there's so much potential and option, and he's definitely doing the lines at Fremont because this is where he can make the lines before he iterates them and then throws them out everywhere. So I think obviously Elon's super excited. He's been excited since he started hinting with us back in January at the
Yes.
Elon interview.
Yes.
But yeah.
Okay. So I'm trying to think what else is coming in Battery Day. Do you have any speculation on what he might surprise us with?
Yeah, I wish I could think off the top of my head, but not at the moment. I honestly, I mean, selfishly, I wish I was there and that he was giving. I want to see the vehicles outfitted with it and
Right.
people to get rides. That would be really exciting. And he usually does at his events. He gives rides, so I would imagine there will be probably the Cybertruck there again and the Roadster there again. But
And maybe the Plaid Model
it's just gonna
S.
be. Yeah, in the Model S, the Plaid Model S. Yeah, that in itself, I wish he would kind of. I mean, he's dealing with 2020 and trying to keep his company going, but which is doing great. But I mean, he's got to rework the plans according to what the county lets him do with number-wise of people. But I don't know if there'll be a Plaid Day or if he's just gonna like kind of throw it right in there to Battery Day. So we may get everything with Plaid and that new battery.
You know what? Actually, we're going to talk about Robotaxi a little while, but he's mentioned that he has the alpha build of the foundational rewrite of FSD, autopilot,
Yes.
navigator pilot, whatever, in his vehicle that he's driving.
Yeah.
I wonder if he's driving a Plaid Model S.
I think that went through my mind when you were talking. I think he is. I bet he is. Yeah.
I gotta think that it's my company, and I want this.
Yeah.
guys, I want the
Yeah.
prototype. Give me that.
Yeah,
'Cause he-
and I don't know. He keeps his Model S. I mean, I don't know if they can go retrofit it with. I mean, they could. I don't know if they just retrofit the pack back under it, or I have no clue how that would really work. But maybe he gets a new Model S, and maybe he doesn't. Maybe he has the old one. I don't know.
well, there was a photo recently where he had I think it was purple, which I don't think I had seen. He was driving around the Cybertruck for a while,
Yeah, you're right.
and then all of a sudden there was this purple one that they were testing. I think they were testing the paint system.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I wonder if that purple one is a plaid. I just in my heart I think he's been driving plaid Model S. He's doing 0 to
Yeah,
60 in 2.1 seconds.
Yeah, now that you mentioned that purple one, that it's like it was the crimson. That's the color of it. So it's
Yeah.
this deep burgundy, purplish, like red, kind of color. So yeah, he if that's what he's driving, that very well could be it. Because I mean, you need some prototype, right? And like
Yeah.
Elon is, he's gonna test it. He wants to be down on the floor and feel it out before he lets it go himself. So yeah, that makes sense. I think you're right, Warren.
So hey, for those who are commenting in the chat, please let us know what you think might be surprises in Battery Day, and I'll ask Kristen what she can't read the chat. I can. So if you put
Yeah, I see nothing.
so if you put what you think what surprises you think Elon might come up with in the chat, then I'll ask her about it. So one of the ones, and I'm going to say no to this one, but one of the you were there when he said no to this, was Javier G says VTOL, that he's going to announce a vertical takeoff and landing jet. And Elon was very clear on the Third Row Tesla podcast. We're not doing
Yeah.
jets. What do you think about that? Is
Yeah.
there any hope?
Well, he said, what did he say? He said, oh man, like that's been on my mind. I've wanted to do that. But I mean, like when he was talking about starting up Tesla and how he had never, done an auto company, for an auto company to start doing what it's doing with EVs would be a lot more cumbersome and hard to do than for the way that Elon did it, just to start from scratch. So I kind of look at it like that. To do the VTOL is just this whole another branch that it's extra work to do. If he did it, he'd have to do a whole different company.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure they can relay parts from his different companies, but he wants to do it. I'm sure it's on the back burner and he's looking into stuff, but I know that there's other companies that are coming out with it. Galley was all over that too. That's something that Galley was pretty passionate about.
Yes, he was really into it. So
Yeah.
somebody asked about a Model 2, like a compact Tesla, and I don't think they're there yet. I think that's the design in China or the design in Europe thing, but do you think there's hope that we'll see a compact soon?
So this is kind of what I thought, and maybe I misread it. I feel like Elon's been pushing the Giga Berlin engineering and art studio, and he had talked about other models coming out, and they, in my opinion, will come from that studio. And we already know that Elon has, I mean, the design team, Franz and everybody probably have some kind of different ideas. It's not like they're just making these models that we see and they've not sketched up some other ideas. So I do think that there is something like this Model 2 that's been floating around. And people keep on saying out of China. I don't think it will come out of China. I personally think it'll come out of Berlin. And I think there's been a lot of people, I think because I said coupe and people are like, oh, not coupe. But I mean, if you've been to Europe as compared to driving cars in the States, like a smaller profile car, one that, like the little Fiats or the little Romeos, all those teeny little cars, if you've driven around Rome or you've driven in Ireland, you need a smaller car for the smaller roads. And I just think it would be a good advantageous thing. Plus, if he's going to start shipping cars more en masse to places like Japan where the roads are smaller too, I think a small car like that I think it would be something in the future.
Yeah. I kind of anticipate there's going to be two compacts or subcompacts. Yeah. There's going to be a China design one that's going to have China's design. That's going to be designed more for Chinese roads and Asian roads. And there's going to be a European compact, which I think is more likely to be. A lot of people have said they want something like the Volkswagen Golf. And of course, they can't make.
That is the GTI, yeah.
But they can't make a Volkswagen Golf, obviously, because that would be a copy, but something, a hatchback, narrower, and I think probably could squeeze 5 passengers in, but designed for 4 passengers, shorter, narrower. The funny thing is, I drove it was a Renault Laguna. I was in France a long time ago, a long time, like 1999 or something like that. And I drove a Renault Laguna, which is not a small vehicle, and I didn't have any problem on any roads. I didn't really drive in the cities, but I drove in the Brittany and Normandy countryside. And I don't know why people are so concerned about the size. I do see people commenting on it, Europeans commenting, we need a smaller vehicle. The Model 3
Yeah.
is not, correct me if I'm wrong, the Model 3 is not that big.
No, it's not. It's not that big. It's minimalism, so it feels very sleek and open. I mean, with the open window, the open interiors, the open roof. So it does feel a lot roomier than it appears on the outside. Plus, I mean, there isn't the engine. There isn't an internal combustion engine system. So you really do have a lot more footprint room interior, like cubic space. But it isn't that big of a profile car. And I think like with the Japanese market, the S was a car that really didn't fit into the
Right.
dynamics of the way they build things, and the Model 3 met that. But I mean, there's the Cybertruck too. The Cybertruck shipping it or just using it in China and Europe, with the dimensions it had when it initially came out, it looked like it wouldn't be a good fit. So
Right.
even if they do a hatchback or a Tesla 2, a little 2 version or whatever we were calling it, if they're gonna do the Cybertruck possibly in Giga Berlin, I don't even know, Giga China, like they're gonna have to possibly lower profile its dimensions,
Yeah.
So
Somebody just mentioned this, and I guess I'm going to ask you about this one. I think the answer is not yet, but a bunch of people have asked about Tesla HVAC, the heating, taking the Model Y's heat pump and octovalve and somehow putting that into a home. Just a disclosure, I am making a video. It is probably my next production video.
yeah,
I'm going to make a video. I'm calling it the Cyber Cabin.
yeah,
And one of the components of the Cyber Cabin is Tesla HVAC. So
yeah,
it's like Tesla steel construction, Tesla / SpaceX steel construction, Tesla solar, Tesla battery, Tesla HVAC. I think that's like my dream. I'm actually thinking about doing a GoFundMe to get people to help me pay to actually build the thing, because I bought an acre of land and I'm going to build my like off-grid apocalypse cabin, because Tesla's the leader in apocalypse technology,
like a doomsday house, like bug out.
Small, something simple, but it's like, I really want to build this cyber cabin idea, which I'll go into more detail in the video. We'll go fund me. Maybe people, and like if you give $100, you get a free night, and it's actually built.
Yeah.
Not in a special location. It's not a place you really necessarily want to be. It's in Florida, but
Yeah.
anyway. So let's see what else we had. We had somebody asked about one of my favorite ideas. I don't know if you've seen my video on this cyber van, cyber bus. Elon has mentioned a larger vehicle that would replace buses, that current buses are too large and they don't have, I think he used the term aerial density, which was an odd term, but he probably had a reason why he used it. You don't have enough people in the space on the bus, the way buses are configured now, and he would remove the center aisle. So I did a concept cyber van. I didn't wear the shirt today. I wore it in my last video, which is basically built on the Cybertruck platform. And it would hold anywhere from 20 to 40 people, depending on how you configure it. If you're in a third world country, you just squeeze more seats in. But he said, he didn't say it exactly, but he said close to it. We're going to do a compact, and he clearly mentioned this minibus idea in Master Plan Part 2. My French is terrible. My French is terrible. But do you think that could happen on Battery Day? They could announce it.
Oh, at Battery Day. I don't know if it'll be announced at Battery Day, but I know that I had done some research on that. It was basically like a Volkswagen bus, but bigger.
Combi. Yeah, I think he said the Combi. Combi
and
art.
he had talked on it a while ago that he really wanted to do it. We haven't seen the plans for it since Cybertruck has been moving forward, but I think there is plans for it. I think that's something you might see with more the boring tunnels as they go in and the different systems.
Yes.
I think Estacada always, what am I saying? Tesla always delivers. I'm thinking of different fire stuff, but it doesn't. It's got a lot on its plate right now. It's not like there's a lack of demand. He's got all these different. I mean, the roadsters need to be delivered. The Cybertrucks, the semis, they're building gigafactories as fast as they can in the midst of this pandemic. So, I think they want to hit that and get to it. But I think when things start getting better, I think they'll probably get to it. But yeah, the little Cybertruck or the little bus kind of like, little miniature. I think it was like more like a.
For people who haven't seen that video, I just want to be clear about this. My picture of why this cyber van is important is one of my other concepts, which I don't think they're going to announce yet, I think it's 5 years down the road, is pod car robotaxi. Elon has said that most rides are single. Well, why not build a single passenger vehicle? So I think the pod car robotaxi is in the future. And in my most optimistic scenario for the pod car robotaxi, where you just get in and there's no steering wheel and it just takes you where you want to go, you probably can't get down lower than about 5 cents a mile. But if you do this cyber van concept and you're carrying 20, 30, 40 people, you can probably get down below a penny a mile. And I'm assuming you're similar to me in that you're not third world poor, right? You're not homeless, you're not third world poor. For us, 5 cents a mile is like, wow, that's fantastic.
Right.
But I did an interview a while back with a guy who's economically challenged, to put it mildly, and I did another interview with a guy who's from Egypt, where there's a lot of people who are economically challenged.
Yeah.
And getting transit town to 5 cents a mile or 10 cents a mile is good, but it's not necessarily better than what they have now, where they just pile into something, or they literally get on the top of a train in India and they get there for almost nothing or free. So
India packs it on.
So if you could deliver a van that is much more convenient than the current mass transit, and it only costs a penny a mile to ride in, that's a huge thing for the world. And I think that's not yet, because they still need the batteries they're producing for cars. There's enough of a market for people to buy regular cars that they don't need to replace mass transit yet, but I think that's coming. So I don't know if you think there's hope for the Cybervan minibus concept coming soon, or if it's further down. Yeah, I think it's like a time frame when you think that might happen. I'm looking at the comments while you're talking. Sorry.
I think the release of it. I mean, Elon said after Cybertruck there wouldn't be there would be a space where there's not going to be a release of new models yet. I think it would be at least 2 years down the road. And like you're saying, in places where the cost of living and the standard of living are different in different countries compared to where we are in the States, per se. I mean, like the Middle East has oil that it's been relying on. I mean, they oils in their backyard, and they've used it like that. And to go into countries like India and put a whole infrastructure of the whole charging network, I mean, the tax that it costs to bring in these cars that they consider Tesla to be a luxury brand is just it's astronomical. And they're working with Tata Motors and Jaguar. They want to go with their own electrical company, or their electrical vehicle companies, and go with that. But I mean, I would love to see Tesla go into India at some point, but I think they're not quite ready for it, because the infrastructure that we have here, I mean, they were putting in the States, they were putting in all the supercharging stations, I mean, way before a lot of people knew what Tesla was, and you would just see them pop up at a random grocery store. And so they're thinking down the road, but I don't know about places like Egypt. It would be really nice, but then we have to think about the infrastructure. And then there is auxiliary different infrastructures, like the charging net groups that we could use that are not Tesla. But Tesla, I mean, I would just love to be in the room and listen to these people who have got all their plans down at the Tesla headquarters, and the way that they're making all these plans, because they've got it projected, I mean, I'm sure a decade out at least. Like when we were talking to Monroe, he was talking about Toyota and Deming, and how Toyota had the 100-year plan. And we know that Tesla's not just got the 10-year plan. So we're all these speculating people that are excited about it, but I would love to see what they have kind of tentative.
Yeah. Tesla House. I'm looking to see if anybody's got a comment on. So yeah, you mentioned India, and somebody just mentioned India in the comments. India is I think the largest population in the world now, ahead of China, but it's just such a difficult market in so many ways. They're not friendly to outside companies coming in and manufacturing. They're not really even friendly to their own companies manufacturing. They're not friendly to imports. In China, I have this theory about China. If I can skip over to China for a second. My theory about China, look, it's not a democracy, right? It's not, we might not love their style. I personally don't think our government is that good, so I won't go there. But you can be the richest, most powerful person or bureaucrat in China, and you still don't get to breathe clean air. Thank you, Matthias. I'll go to Matthias's question first. What if cybervans are going to be overcrowded in India? What about vandalism? Scooter providers have huge negative aspects too. That's a lot for me to answer. I think I'm going to stick with the China thing for now, and we'll come back to that. That's too much. So suppose you're wealthy in China. No matter how rich you are, when you go outside, you still have to breathe air.
Hmm.
No matter how powerful a bureaucrat you are, the only way you can be safe is if you stay inside or
Hmm.
inside vehicles that have HEPA filters. Don't get to go
Yeah.
out. Your children can't go outside and breathe air. So the Chinese leadership has said, you know what? We want our kids to be able to breathe air.
Yeah, they're pretty progressive about it. Yeah.
Um, I think they're better than American government on we really need to clean up the air, and it's not
Hmm.
because they care about the poor.
Yeah.
It's because they care about themselves and their own children, and having polluted air is a problem no matter how rich you are.
Right.
So, but I don't understand why India doesn't see that, because India has probably, I actually don't know. I would assume India has bad pollution as well.
Well,
Um,
I think when you look at what China is and the way that they rule their people, they're groupthink. It's groupthink to one identity. It's almost it, they're steering the ship, and when they decide to change it, it all goes. We've got people on a ship, and not everyone votes on what direction the ship's going to go, and so it takes forever just to get through it all.
right.
And India is similar. I mean, India is an old culture. The infrastructures. I mean, you go to America, I can go to a dirt place nowhere and build a new infrastructure with a perfect laid out square grid. You go to India, and it's been around for thousands and thousands of years. Like, they have to revamp the way things were. It's not easy just to rip it all up and change it. And some people are probably very happy with the way it is, you know? So there's a lot of voices that are voicing opinions, and then there's a lot of
Yeah.
politics. And I don't think it's as easy. China, it reigns from the head down, you know, what we say goes, and this is the way it is.
Right.
They all start to talk the same and say the same thing. So
Just to Matthias's point about cyber van or minibus in India, I think his concern was if you put the minibus in India, there'll be some. He mentioned vandalism, which I don't think is a particular problem in India, but I can see the overcrowding problem.
yeah.
Just for people, I think I mentioned this in my cyber van video, but to me, it works like you have an app on your phone and you reserve. Like, what's the company Tesloop? There's a company Tesloop in
Yeah.
California, and
Yeah.
you would go on an app and reserve a seat. So to me, that's the same idea. To get in the cyber van, you got to reserve a seat. So and I don't know how you police it so other people can't cram in or climb on top. I suppose that's a potential issue, but I don't really think India is a lawless place where people, it's just accepted people will ride on the train, so they do it. I don't think they ride on car. I don't think they climb on the tops of existing buses or cars. I don't see.
Well, they do climb on top of buses. I've been there
Do they?
before, and I've never seen that many people on the top and on the exterior of a bus, and the thing can still move. I'm just like, their ability to pack something in and still make it work is phenomenal.
Well, I guess if that were to happen, they would just make sure that Cybervan is structurally sound to be able to handle extra weight on the roof. Which,
Yeah.
which if you think about how Cybertruck is being made, its structural soundness is important. I kind of
Yeah.
picture it having a glass roof, and maybe the glass roof is enough, but maybe you just go with a 3 millimeter thick steel roof with some ribs or something to support it, and then it'll be okay with extra weight. I don't know. Because it would be
Yeah.
bad if the roof fell in.
Yeah. I think the US would be a good market for that cyber van that you're talking about, the cyber bus van thing. But I think India, you see a lot of people, like in Thailand, you see a lot of people on mopeds and rickshaws.
Yeah.
And I think we saw the ATV from the Cybertruck, and maybe taking something more like that, that's electrical, and pushing that in their market would probably be more efficient for their market where they're at.
Yes.
But I mean, because you even in Thailand, and when I was in India, we would get on a moped, and like there'd be like they want like four of us on a moped. And you'd see whole families on a
Yes.
moped, in India.
David,
So they do pack it in.
David, thank you for your contribution. I think it's like I'm learning the YouTuber thing, and it's important to recognize people who give you money. So thank you
Yeah,
very much,
definitely.
David. I greatly appreciate it. So I wanted to clarify the concept of cybering. When you mentioned using the cyber van concept in the United States, we have this just my picture is really simple because I live in South Florida. I live, about an hour from Miami, and we're about a 3-hour drive from Orlando, from Disney, from Universal. No traffic.
Right.
Usually is a little, but not too bad. But I picture, what if you did a boring tunnel straight from South
Yeah.
Florida? It pops up in Disneyland and Universal. Literally has stops, and it goes 120 or 150 miles, and you pile into one of these vans. You take a a Robotaxi to the mall. And at
Hmm.
the mall, you hop in the cyber van in the loop, and it takes you straight there before Hyperloop yet. We're just still on regular loop, right? But it's 150 miles an hour, so it gets you there in a little over an hour. But because it gets the cost down to, maybe in America, maybe 2, 3 cents a mile, I'm going from here to Disney in an hour instead of 3 hours, and it's costing me like $10 instead of, currently 150 miles, 60 cents a mile cost me like $75. And it's
Yeah.
good enough. So people here, Disney has all these hotels around it, right?
Right.
I won't need a hotel anymore. I just hop
Yeah.
in the cyber van to go home, and I'm home in
Yeah.
an hour, and it costs me less, it costs me a lot less than staying in a hotel. Thank you, such developments. So
Yeah.
um, I think people don't grasp. This is where, like, I'm going to get excited for a minute. I I think this is people see, like, and I talk about this too. Oh, in 2023 or 2025, we're going to see this new Tesla Model S that's going to cost this and that's. No, the amazing future that we're coming to is when we have transportation is just totally changed. Where
Yeah.
I don't bother buying a car, and I press a button on my phone, and a car shows up and picks me up and takes me where I want to go, or drops me off at the loop or hyperloop, and I'm anywhere within 1,000 miles in an hour, right, or a couple hours, or I go any much longer distances than I'm used to for much less money and much less time, and just our whole concept of place changes.
Yeah.
If I want to go to watch a Miami Heat game, which is normally an hour drive plus traffic, now it's a 10-minute ride, and it costs me less money, and I don't even have to think about it anymore. Do you have any thoughts about that radical future of how transportation is going to change?
Well, I think where Elon is saying it's best to go sub, it's best to go below with the
Yes.
boring tunnels makes a lot of sense. And I think people are all, what about like the cart? Well, if we're going to be using electrical vehicles down there, that won't be the problem. And like you're stating, we can get there quicker. Um, I mean, the boring tunnels he's got going on are large popular density areas where people have to get from like the airport to Vegas, and that's very efficient for there. Or like places in DC, I believe he's got contracts where it can be a line that runs. And like you're saying, like even Disney World, like you could put that under there. And I think it would be efficient. 10 years from now, I mean, we're still using smartphones and we could totally not, I mean, maybe, a driverless vehicle, like you're saying, could just pick us up and the algorithms. I mean, look at the algorithms now. They just blow us away. And like, I mean, we're talking about AI now, but I mean, it's going to be so efficient that it's going to just calculate everything in and it's going to pick you up. I mean, and maybe we throw in 25 years from now and we all have like neural links where we don't even use smartphones. And it's just like, it's already calculating all our different ideas and how we're all going to come together. And it's going to algorithmically put us all together in the efficiency of executing everything, which would just be mind blowing. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe there'll even be a feedback where it tells you don't need to go to Disneyland today and you accept it. You're like, yeah, I'm good at that. Like it appeases you instead.
Well, your Neuralink checks the lines. It says, the line on the ride you like is going to be long today. You don't want to go today. Go tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
No, and like personally, I have Alzheimer's in my family. My mother has it now. My grandmother had it before, and I'm like, I'm planning on having a Neuralink.
Yeah, I don't think the way things are going, I don't think you probably would be okay. And they're using the sonar right now to get rid of the plaques that are building up, in the people's brains as well. There's a lot of, I mean, things are moving quite dynamically. We probably don't have to worry about those things.
I just need to be in the cloud before the Alzheimer's sets in. I need to move my consciousness out of this terrible biological case that it's
crazy.
in now. But I literally picture about 10 years, maybe it's 12 years, maybe it's Neuralink version 4 or 5. Put that thing in my head. I need that because I can see. I see my mother. Unfortunately, because of COVID, I don't see my mother as much as I used to. But I was spending, see my mother 3 times a week before COVID hit, and my mother's really lost a lot. Like I don't want that. I want to survive that. I want to do better than that. So, can we get this Neuralink thing to figure out what's going on? And so far, it's only women in my family, but I figure there's a 50-50 chance I'm going to get it. So let's see.
And we're in such the rudimentary phases with that. Like, we're just looking at what it can do to short circuit or help with the short circuiting of the wiring, like the ability for the Neuralink to get in our head and then use algorithms to figure out what is chemically off and what is just all off in the body. It's gonna, we're just like seeing such a rudimentary phase. It's gonna be mind blowing
Yes.
where we are.
But I wanted to turn. We talked before we went live that we were going to talk about Robotaxi. Robotaxi is probably my favorite subject, and I think you mentioned that you're fascinated by it as well. So I'm going to offer my prediction. I've been consistent in this prediction. Full self-driving feature complete will be out. I think Elon just said this on Twitter, that the foundational rewrite will be in cars by the end of the year. I don't know if that means feature complete. I think he may be couching that one a little bit, but I think we're going to be close to feature complete by the end of the year. And my projection, which I'm starting to back off a little bit, is by the end of 2021, there will be a Robotaxi operating somewhere in the world. I'm hoping Florida, where I live. Florida has very favorable laws for Robotaxi. But do you have any, we operate in Elon time, or we see Elon time a lot. Do you have any sense of how long you think it'll be before we get actual Robotaxis on the road and we won't own cars anymore?
So
I mean, the first
I think
ones.
that they might be doing the beta pilot programs probably maybe early mid next year. And I think if they do it, they'd probably do it in places like Vegas, maybe with that boring tunnel.
Yeah.
No, just a second. Someone's trying to get in here. Just a second. Okay.
This is fun. The fun about live streaming.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it might be places like in Vegas that they'd be doing it. Places where it can. I think there'll be more control in that tunnel. I mean, I don't know. It's hard because I mean, you see people get mad at Tesla and they're like, "Oh, look, they didn't deliver. Like they promised all this," and I'm like, "Yes, but we all had to factor in 2020. Like Tesla did amazingly well considering 2020 and how everyone else is doing. And like maybe they can't meet all their benchmarks they predicted. And even though Elon was kind of throwing a few of those out, like you have to reassess the business plan because like they were saying, like I think at the earnings calls, like I think it was Drew was saying like they were just amazed how they were flying in different parts and they were still meeting their getting their production and everything done and their suppliers and stuff like that. But I think maybe mid next year, there'll be a few betas on the road, but
right.
I don't know.
I just, the way I see it is it rolls out somewhere. So places like Michigan, which are dominated by auto manufacturers, special interests, and places like New York and California that California used to be progressively adopting technology. And it seems like with the war on Uber and Lyft, they're like actually resisting it now. But I think certain jurisdictions, and I think Florida is one of them, and I think China is one of them, I think they will embrace Robotaxi quickly, and there will be the first. And then this is my whole theory about it. Like this is what I think happened with Uber and Lyft, is it started somewhere, and then people visiting that place said, "Wow, this is awesome. We need this at home." And it got a hold in enough places before the special interests that oppose it were able to get to the legislators and stop it. And then by that time, there were too many voters who said, "What do you mean you're taking away Uber?" Because this happened. I live in Palm Beach County, Florida, and Broward, when I first moved here in 2011, Broward County did not allow Uber. And it's like anybody who'd ever been to a place that had Uber was like, "Why are you not allowing this? This is great." And
New Orleans, I think I couldn't use one. I was like, wow, I really want one right now. But
I think the Florida Keys, it's still not allowed in the Florida Keys. And right now there's this whole other, COVID is created. It's odd. Like, why would Uber be a problem with COVID? Just one other guy in the car. That people are panicking about everything. But I feel like Robotaxi is even better because there's no one else in the car with you. There's no driver. You don't have to worry about catching and you can. I think you did the interview with Kimball Musk, by the way. You were at the end,
that was fun.
And he mentioned Mojave mode for the food.
And you had said something about it.
No, so my theory about Mojave mode is Mojave mode is they have these containers where they grow vegetables or lettuce or whatever. And if there's a pest, instead of using pesticides, they just turn on Mojave mode, which makes it like a desert for a day, and it kills all the pests. Well, what if you had Mojave mode in the car? So you have the Robotaxi, and then the passenger gets out. Before the next passenger gets in, you run Mojave mode for 15 minutes. Then you open the windows, and any virus or bacteria or whatever, any sickness that was in the car is dead by the time the next passenger gets picked up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, they do that in the shipping containers where Kimball has been growing the plants, and even in freezing cold weather, he's still growing the plants inside there, and they use the Mojave Road. And I think it's a good idea. I mean, the heat temperature, I'm not sure the quality of the materials if they could take it, but we already have ultraviolet light sanitations that we could
Yeah.
use as well. I mean, they could put those in certain areas to strategically just clean the interior of the cabs. I mean, that could definitely be a thing in itself. And I want everyone to know, if they're wondering why I'm sitting here, my like the location where my usual residence is has been evacuated from fires, so I'm staying at some people who are kindly letting me stay with them. That's why I'm sitting against a door. Like I don't have all my regular stuff with me, but yeah, just to trying to be professional. It's kind of hard in this time right now, but yeah, the Mojave. I mean, the Mojave. I just don't know if they can take that much heat, though, Warren. I mean, I'm
It
not
was an
sure how
idea.
he's got to be taking it over 106 to start killing things, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, but if it's look, the inside of a car in Arizona on a or in the cars experience that already. I realize it's a little bit odd, but I just think that it's another advantage that Robotaxi
True.
has that current transportation doesn't, is you can deal with viruses, bacteria, or other potential threats in a way that you can't in something that has a driver in it.
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
the driver could get out, run Mojave mode, get back in, whatever. It doesn't really make sense. So,
yeah. It
um,
would be nice without a driver, yeah. And they could streamline the inside of those robotaxis. It would be interesting to see if they start doing that just to make them more efficient for capacity if there's no driver.
so what's
Because you
your
don't need the steering wheel.
so
You don't need to
get
face forward.
right, so get it so but in terms of like I feel like this is a video I'm going to make is like a day in the life of the Robotaxi, but I wanted to say a buddy of mine, big factor in how I do things in life now, had taught me this thing. Like right now I'm speaking and we have an audience, and my friend
Yeah.
said it's really important that you talk about what matters to them. We were candidates running for office. We were talking about what we're going to say, and he says, look, you just said something, it sounds good, but why does it matter to the voters? So what matters to the
Yeah.
audience, what matters to people about Robotaxi is, how is my life going to be different? How is their life going to be different in a Robotaxi world? What's your vision for
Hmm.
how a Robotaxi world affect, how a regular person lives in a Robotaxi world? How is that different from how people live now?
So right now you have people, I mean, the cities are where the jobs are at. People are doing ride shares already. They park their vehicle and they either get on a public transport, like a bus or a TriMet, um, and they ride into town. So a robotaxi could be a lot more personable. It could just pick you up from your house, and people could be dropped off at their house. People could use the robotaxis. I mean, there's school buses and stuff like that. If you live in a certain district, that'll pick up your kids. Um, you could, and a lot of parents probably do carpools where they do it, but a robotaxi could pick up your child and it could be programmed to drop off your child. You could use an app that would program that. I mean, you could pick up the kid and drop it off at Billy's or something. You could drop the child at work with you if you need it. You could change things and pay per the change. There would be a lot more flexibility in that. And Uber and Lyft are they're controversial right now, I think, just for everything that's going on. So it would be something that could fill that niche, that need that's going on. It could be a nice transfer over. I think what Tasha from Ark Investment was talking about was kind of similar along the lines what I was thinking with it's going to start out with drivers. I don't know why it wouldn't, because there's a perfect market to transfer over people who are into Uber and Lyft as an extra income or their main income using the robotaxi network at first with a driver, and then weaning it off and not having drivers. And I'm not sure exactly, I haven't looked into how that'll all look, but we're just all speculating right now. But there definitely is probably a market coming for it. And with the COVID, it's going to transform even the way we're looking at it. Because like you're saying, the sanitation purposes, or even people just wanting to ride alone. And you're talking about the robotaxi Cybertruck kind of bus thing more, aren't you?
Both, but no. So you hit on something that really hit me. So I live in Palm Beach County, Florida, in Boca Raton, and we live so close to our schools that we're not eligible for buses. So we carpool or drive our
Oh,
kids, and my neighbors either carpool or drive their kids, and we
yeah.
have a lot of families where people have the time to work from home, or somebody doesn't work, that people can drive their kid to school and not need to carpool. Our kids have generally carpooled with neighbors, but I have friends whose kids ride the buses and they're awful. and,
Yeah.
and I'm talking about friends who are wealthy, okay, like
Yeah.
really wealthy, You
It's
know,
convenient.
I live in a house I live in a very nice house.
Uh-huh.
Not by California standards, you're like, oh, your house only costs that much, but by most of the countries, my house is probably worth over $600,000. And of course, in California, like, oh, really? That's too bad.
Yeah. Well, it'd
but
probably be worth a lot
but
more
in
in some of
Florida,
those
this is
areas.
my house, my brother lives in Manhattan Beach, and his house is third the square footage of my house. I have a pool, I have a lake view, I have a 3-car garage, but his house is worth about twice as much as my house, even size, and not even in a good school. It's in Hawthorne,
That
California.
stinks.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So if you dropped my house in Manhattan Beach, California, or Palo Alto or something, it would be worth like 5 or 10 million. but
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
but my friends, the specific friend I'm thinking about, they live in this neighborhood. I live in a gated community. They live in a gated community, but their homes are all worth more than $1 million. And it's 5,000, 6,000 square feet. They're gorgeous architecture, whatever. And their kid rides this terrible bus ride every day. And it's like, if they could pay 10 cents a mile for a Robotaxi or 20 cents a mile for they would do it in a heartbeat.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
the kid would pay for it herself rather than
Yeah.
but I actually, where you were going with that, it's one of the things that I don't think about a lot. And we have Uber. There's a version of Uber where multiple people go in, and I can't.
Right.
There's a
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the lower version where it takes you longer to get there because it has multiple
it
stops
picks up
with
other people. And you could see
Yeah.
Robotaxi, because all right, so Robotaxi is going to get down. First, it's going to be $1 a mile. In a few years, it's going to get down to 75 and 50 cents a mile. In the long run, you get to where you're getting the cost down to maybe 25 cents a mile, which
Right.
for me is fantastic, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm spending 50, 65, 75 cents a mile on my vehicle right now. So for a lot
Right.
of people, it's going to save us a lot of money. But for people who are really budget conscious, I can do the ride sharing version. It's probably going to be better in Robotaxi than it is on Uber or Lyft. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I'm getting around for 10 cents a mile. And for a lot of Americans and Europeans, Asians, that's a huge change. It makes life a lot better for people. And like you said, it picks you up at your front door. You're not walking. Like here, if I want to take the bus, it's like a half-mile walk out to the bus stop from my house.
Right.
And for a lot of people,
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, even taking the bus as a kid, I think my freshman year in high school for the first couple months, I just took the bus till I had older friends that picked me up. But like, you had to like go a ways to get to the bus, and the bus driver was not the best bus driver. She's running over curbs.
yes,
She's running over things. She ran over someone's dog. Like, there's no seatbelts. Like,
yeah.
I mean, there's the safety factor alone with Tesla and its full self-driving and autopilot, which will be a lot safer for your child than a regular Greyhound bus that's been contracted out.
Yeah. So I need to address a comment. There's a commenter
Bluebird bus.
There's a commenter named VV who's laughing at my idea that Robotaxi would cost 10 cents or 25 cents a mile. I made a video. I've made a couple of videos about Robotaxi. I would encourage you to look back in the channel, search my titles for Robotaxi, and you're going to see I've explained how the cost of Robotaxi gets driven down. That when you're not paying for a steering wheel, when you produce in volume, when you produce smaller vehicles than the Model 3, when you get a million-mile life. One of the big factors for people who don't understand this, one of the big factors in the cost of a per mile of your vehicle is you're amortizing the expense of the vehicle over the mileage. So if your car gets 100,000 miles and it costs you $50,000, 50 cents a mile, or I think that's a nickel a mile or something like that.
Yeah.
If you can get to 1 million miles and you can reduce the cost of the vehicle, you're reducing that cost. The electricity cost of an electric vehicle is much lower than the cost of a gas vehicle. And the maintenance costs are lower, and then you're not paying for a driver because it's a Robotaxi. And those are the ways for VV, who's been criticizing this. When you look at those numbers and you really drive those down, you can see where I think wasn't Tesla or Elon said they're already down to 18 cents a mile for Model 3 now?
I honestly don't know.
I think at Autonomy Day, Elon said they were already down to 18 cents a mile cost for the Model 3. Not the sale price of the Robotaxi ride, but the cost of the vehicle spread over 1 million miles with all the operational costs. So that's Model 3 in 2019. You go to Model 2 in 2023 with a lithium-ion battery pack and no steering wheel and no pedals, and million-mile life. His Model 3 in 2019 was only 300 to 500,000 mile life. Take all that into account, and you're more efficient with electricity. I think 10 cents a mile is easy for a
Yeah.
4-passenger vehicle. Then you go down to my pod car Robotaxi, and you're getting down to a nickel a mile. So I just wanted to
Yeah.
address that comment. And you and I had
Well, the
talked.
cost. Well, and no one. I mean, have you even factored in the cost of how much it takes to make those Bluebird or Greyhound buses? I mean,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
the fuel that they're eating up.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they're not cheap vehicles, you know.
Yeah. But I'm even talking about a single passenger riding in a Model
Oh,
2, a 4-passenger compact vehicle. You're still getting down close to 10 cents a mile if you do it right. That's not the price that you're paying as a passenger. That's the cost of the operator. But I think it's not going to be hard to get down below 10 cents a mile and eventually get the price per passenger down there. So
yeah.
I just wanted to say, when you and I talked before, we had talked about an hour. We're about an hour and 8 minutes now. I don't want to hold you longer if you have something to do, and I know your life is a jumble. So I'll give you an out now if you want, or if you want to talk longer, we can talk longer. But do you have any?
You would
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I want to hear what you have to say.
I'm just wondering if there's anything else you wanted to talk about, or what's on your mind today? What are you excited about for Tesla in the future? To give you a chance to sort of close up, what are you excited about for the future? When you look at Tesla, SpaceX,
Well,
Neuralink, et cetera, what really gets you?
oh boy.
Pick a
All
couple
of
things.
it. I mean, momentarily, the battery day. I think we need something more to talk about and something solid to run with. I'm really excited about that. Just the speed that they're building the Gigafactory is really exciting. And as they reiterate, they make these new factories, they fine tune everything, and they're making them faster and they're making them more efficient. That's really exciting. You had mentioned at one point talking about our Elon interview, so I don't know if you wanted to go over that at all.
Yeah. What was it like? What's the experience? It's sort of a dumb question because he's human. But
He is human.
did it feel anything? Because I've met some celebrities in my life. I've actually met a couple of billionaires in my life. Um, and they're people.
Yeah.
There's some kind of aura about them, but they're people. And honestly, I still kind of humbled in the presence of my wife. So my
Oh,
kids are
that's sweet.
fantastic. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
can you describe that experience? Is there anything that stands out to you about the experience of interviewing Elon Musk?
Well, it was sheer excitement. I mean, I think we were all thrilled and over the top that it was even going to happen and that he would even take the time. He's an incredibly busy person. Um, he invited us to one of the residences close by that he had owned, the Gene Wilder home.
Yes.
Beautiful place. I mean, I love that he wants to keep the character of the place and the sentiment of it. You go inside and it's got kind of Willy Wonka kind of, a purple velvet couch with a
Yeah.
picture of Willy Wonka on the wall, and it had a lot of personal touches like that we loved. Meeting him, he is a very kind, very hospitable, I mean, people are like, were you stressed out? Were you nervous? And I was like, well, we were nervous, excited. But I mean, once you start talking to Elon, he's so confident in what he's talking about. And he's sincere that, I mean, it was calming to me, as exciting as it was in a weird way. So, he's a very genuine person. Like,
Yeah.
you hear the Tesla shorts make up all this crap about him as if he's got this like ulterior motives and like he's doing this to be a con artist. I'm like,
Yeah.
I think they're reading maybe their own personal attributes into it. I don't know.
Yes.
Because he's not like that. I mean, we expected to only have an hour with him, and he gave us I think it was like from 10 to 11 that we were going to be with him. It gets close to lunch, and he's kind, and he's like, hey, we gotta ring up and get some lunch for people here. We're all gonna eat, and we're like, wow, Elon's gonna we're gonna eat together. And so we had lunch with Elon, and then we went back to the interview. We were there till 4. And I remember May saying, she's like, even I don't get 5 hours with Elon on a Saturday. And she even said there was things that she learned about him because he was just so open and genuine with us,
Yeah.
His time is precious to him. And we were kind that he wanted to take the time to share his story with us. So
it
was great. And then Kimball walked in. We're like, wow, Kimball too.
Was it odd for you that he was staring at he was almost like not paying attention for most of that interview?
The lighting was really bright in that room. I think we had to diet it down, and he's always thinking about how he's answering and stuff like that. And I don't know if he had just come back from a little from wherever he was. He's always flying everywhere, so he's probably exhausted. I don't know how he does it. He's always somewhere else and doing, and that would be really hard on the mind. But I don't know. Like, I feel like he was paying attention to the questions, and we were just trying to go with what, because it was
No,
talking about, it was more about,
when you were interviewing Elon,
uh-huh.
Kimball's sitting there, and it seemed like
Oh,
he was looking at his phone the whole time, and a couple of times he chipped in, but it seemed like
yeah,
most of the time he was like, "Well, if they need me, I'm here." But I've got all this stuff to do on my phone, so I'm doing it. And it just seemed kind of, as a viewer, it was kind of odd that Kimball looked like he was. The interview with Kimball, like what is it, Square Roots? Like
yes,
I bought this acre. I'm going to put my cyber cabin on it or my apocalypse cabin or whatever. I want a
yeah,
Square Roots
yeah,
container so I can grow stuff for myself on my,
yeah, it's pretty
because I could
cool.
just farm the land, right? But
Yeah,
it's
just in a
somehow more
shipping
cool.
container.
It's somehow more cool to do it with a shipping container, and I don't have to worry about the animals coming along and eating all my crops too. That's another advantage
Yeah,
of it. But yeah, it was just
true.
that experience of they're such celebrities. They're so, especially Elon. They're so, to me, they're so magnetic. There's something
Yeah.
special about them. But you were nervous at first, and then they're just pleasant to be around.
Calming. They're just a warm, genuine, sweet family. I really like them. Kimball walked in. I think Elon is so busy. You got to meet Elon where he's at.
Yeah,
So I think his family comes out of their way to meet him, and they're so supportive of each other. I love this about their family. Like, Tuska has a premiere coming up. Like, they're there for her. Kimball came in. I think he was spending time with his sons and with Elon's sons. It's like Uncle Kimball, and they play games. They play. I think it was at Polytopia with their boys. I mean, their boys are priority over us in a heartbeat.
yeah,
And if this is what the boys are doing, I think that's what Kimball was doing when he came in. He was playing Polytopia with his sons and with Elon's sons, and maybe even Kimball's daughter. I don't know, but I think that was just where his priority was, and he was there to fill in and ask questions and be part of it. We had asked him if he wanted to pull up a chair.
yeah.
He didn't have to be there, but we loved having him there because his perspective was very, yeah. It was another perspective we hadn't heard, and we loved hearing it. But I mean, it was the Elon interview, and he wasn't
Right,
gonna like take over and like
right.
push his brother to the side. He was there just to be a supportive role, which we
Yeah.
loved having him there.
I thought there were a couple of moments when you were talking about, because I've watched those interviews. I'm such a fanboy. I'm a fanboy of you, but I'm also a fanboy of Elon, and I've watched those interviews probably at least 2 or 3 times. And I remember there was a moment where they were talking about the startup, about their lives as starting up
Oh yeah,
both, what was his,
Silicon Valley and the
Tip 2
sleeping bags.
something, and then in the early days of Tesla. And I thought Kimball actually made some substantial contributions in those parts of the interview, but for a lot of it, he was. I'm just curious how that felt. So let's
Yeah,
see.
he was on his phone. When he was talking, it's funny because he would turn and look at me because I don't know, like I felt like often when he would talk, he was looking at me, which was nice, but he was looking at all of us. It might have just been because I was close by, like, but
Yeah,
yeah, we did have the camera on everybody, and ironically, we had a camera on him when he wasn't talking. He probably didn't think that. I mean, I didn't edit the material, and Safian was just trying to include him, but he probably didn't think that he would be on camera the whole time for the
right,
interview with his head down in his phone, like.
right.
But yeah,
But I think
and then Maeve was in the background sitting.
maybe that experience was different for us as viewers because it's right in our face. That
Yes.
he's looking down at his phone. For you guys, you're around a table and you're having a conversation, and maybe it's not as noticeable. So,
Yeah.
all right, let me think.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if there's anything else I wanted to ask you. I wanted to thank you.
Yeah.
It's
Thanks.
a huge gift to give me. Just like you're saying, Elon giving you his time. For me, it's a
Oh, you're
huge
so
gift.
nice.
It's a huge gift for you to give me your time and give us. We're up to 800, by the way, concurrent
Oh my
viewers.
gosh.
So,
That's
and
quite
you
the
and
number.
you've been wonderful. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Just Tesla's exciting, and the things coming are just going to get better. I mean, the momentum of Tesla, it's got its feet strongly on the ground, and it's going to move forward. I don't see Tesla failing at all at the point it's at. I think, ironically enough, 2020 being a year that is a down year for everybody else has come to be. It's come to be the way it's turned around. It's been really good for Tesla, and I think it's just going to get better. I mean, everybody's really taking Tesla seriously now. I mean, we watch the stock and we laugh. We're like, wow.
Well, we have this thing where hard times expose the weak, and Tesla and Amazon clobbered 2020, right? 2020 clobbered a lot of companies, and a lot of places went bankrupt. It's funny, all the delivery pizza places did great, right? But all the other
Right.
restaurants did not. And
Yeah.
it's like we used like I
Alcohol and entertainment.
and I'm sorry, this is going off topic a little bit, but we were just talking about this. are we ever going to go to a movie theater again? Because I
Oh,
have a 65-inch screen at home, and I can
yeah,
fire up almost any movie on my TV now for, we watched Mulan for like $30 for five of us, and I made popcorn at
yeah,
home. And
that's crazy.
like, I'm
Concerts.
struggling with, but now I have a friend who runs a comedy club, and
Yeah,
this is devastating to comedy clubs. My daughter is an aspiring stage actress, college
yeah.
right now for music.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
musical theater going to come back? So it's just
yeah. That is, I mean, that is interesting.
there's this radical shift in a lot of things, and with all these curveballs that 2020 threw at us, I'm an Amazon
Yeah,
fan too. Like a lot of Elon fans are like Jeff Bezos' arrival. I'm like, I'm a Jeff Bezos fan. I think Bezos is amazing. I think Amazon is amazing. And like I used to joke that Amazon was setting up a distribution center outside my neighborhood because of how much I order.
that's hilarious.
I think I think we got a package in my house every day. This is unusual. We had a period where it wasn't like this, but I think the last week or so we've had more than one package a day some days. We've had a package from
Yeah,
Amazon every day this week. And
yeah,
like including, I think we got two yesterday. So the strong thrive in difficult environments, and Tesla proved, hey, we're the strong one, where all these other auto companies suffered. So, and I
yeah,
understand the fires have been difficult for you. I hope your future is not smoky and better in
yeah.
the near
Well, the
future.
winds have died down in most of the areas, so we're doing good. Yeah, but the air quality is just off the charts, horrible right now for everybody. So,
You need a
I mean,
model.
from all the West
You
Coast,
need
all of the U.S. West
you
Coast.
need a Model S with a HEPA filter, and you need your home to get a Tesla HVAC with HEPA filter. So
Yes. And people keep saying they're like the 3 and Y need the HEPA filter. Elon addressed that like in 2019. Like the systems are too expensive and too big to
right.
be putting in the 3 and Y. Doesn't mean that they might not in the future look at it because I'm sure they're hearing the pressing desire by the community to have it. But right now, with where Tesla's going, I don't think it's on the table. If you really want that, it is available in the other vehicles.
I
So I
thought
mean, you can get a used Tesla S if it's the price, you
I
know?
thought somebody ran their Model 3 fan at like maximum speed, and it ended up being
Yeah,
almost as
because the filter is gonna like filter the particles
it
faster. Yeah,
actually ended up being almost as effective as the HEPA filter in the Model S. I forget the numbers, but
that's
there was an
hilarious.
article on that. So listen, let me just see if there were any final comments from anybody I need to address. I don't see anything. I'm sorry. So if anybody had any questions, I'm afraid we're 20 minutes over what we had planned when we started this. So I want to thank everyone for watching. I want to thank especially the people who made contributions. Kristen, thank you very much for coming on. It's an honor and a
Yeah, thanks
privilege,
for
and
having me.
everything else nice I can say. And I'm gonna stop the stream, and then we'll talk for a second on Skype before I let you go.
Okay,
Bye,
great.
everyone.
Bye.